Hey everybody, how are you doing? Welcome. That's my Muppet face. So good evening, welcome to you. It's Saturday and it's Quilt Nerd time, and it's my favorite time of the week. Tuesdays.
Mary,
yeah.
You got loud music playing behind you. I think it's your, yeah.
You're right. Thank you. Stephanie Cake, thank you very much.
It was a very saucy lounge music. I liked it.
It's true. Well, you know, I can even bring it down a little bit further. Hey, Kay! Mother Nature! Susanna! Oh my God! We're going to say a proper hello to Susanna soon. Yeah, sorry about that. Stephanie, thank you so much for telling me that, because, you know, without you, I would just like, and then just, it would be terrible. Tech is hard and computers are, yeah, they're really difficult. But we have enough of a command of them to do this. And I'm really glad that you're here. Quilt Nerd is, it's a community research project. That's what we're calling it now, and at least one of the things that we call it. And I'm really grateful for you. This show has done a lot for me, just in terms of learning stuff, but in terms of the people that I've met in person and like over the, chat in the chat room, it's really great. It's a cool community, and I hope that if you're new here, or if you're watching for the first time, or if you're thinking about subscribing because you're like, I really like this show, like I think I want to give her money because, it's probably a lot of work. You're right. And so, but whatever, I don't know. Even if you've watched for a long time, like I just want to thank you for being a part of this, because I started it without any idea of what I was doing. I just didn't want to research quilts by myself anymore, Like I just didn't want to do that anymore alone, because I find such cool stuff, I want to share it. And so this show is basically like doing research with you in real time. And you get to chat in the chat, and you get to meet people who are also chatting in the chat. and you can, I don't know, I mean, this is a bit lofty, but like, I don't know, Cake and I were talking about, this is, there's a new generation of quilt nerd people, right? There better be. It's a good thing, it's a good thing. I mean, the brilliant Bets Ramsey, one of the pillars, one of the foremothers, perhaps arguably the foremother, next to Sally Garrett, right, of, quilt study, formal sort of scholarly quilt study in the United States. She just turned 100. 100. Happy birthday. Happy birthday, Bets. She's awesome. She's amazing. We featured her in the Tennessee issue of Quilt Folk magazine, the first issue that I worked on. She's incredible. She's got like a twinkle in her eye. She eats like good barbecue in Nashville where she lives. Anyway, the point is that, Bets is 100. Amazing. But the best way to honor sort of her work and carry it on and so forth is, to have the young whippersnappers, right? Come up. Stand on the shoulders of giants. So anyway, so I kind of think, Quilt Nerd is like part of that. It's not that, but it's part of that. And so if you're here and watching and you're here every week and you're into this, you're part of that. You really are. You don't have to write a research paper or do a thing, to be part of that. But even the interest in something like this is, it's worth something. I do think that. So good evening, Bridgewater in VA. Thank you so much for subscribing at Tier 2. You've been subscribed for 20 months. I appreciate you. And you reminded me that tomorrow, so if you're a Tier 2 or Tier 3 subscriber, you get a private VIP stream every month. The last week of the month, the last Sunday of the month, 11 a.m. Sundays. It's brunch. It's the Sunday Social. And tomorrow, the Sunday Social is a Sunday Social that we've never done before. There's always something fun. There's always something different. Tomorrow, it is a Meet the Bakery social. So the goddesses of the Quilt Nerd operation, Robin's Nest Creations, Stephanie Cake, and Susanna Makes, otherwise known as Biscuit, Cake, and Pie. It's a thing, okay? We take it all the way. The bakery, right? These women help me make the show, and they help it happen. Like, I don't know how it would happen without them. I do, because I did it without them for a while, and it was terrible. So anyway, so tomorrow, there's going to be sort of an interview, kind of a formal interview from me, but also kind of an AMA. You can ask them questions, and if the Tier 2 and Tier 3 people, like, it's time to like hang out with the bakery, on camera. It's going to be great. So Robin helps out a lot with the subscription stuff. And so, Robin, I don't know if there's a cutoff for subscribing at Tier 2 or Tier 3. I mean, like, if you subscribe at Tier 2 and Tier 3, can you join the fun tomorrow at 11 a.m. Central? I think so, but you got to give your email to Quilt Nerd Show.
I will have to defer to Robin on this question.
Yeah.
She's responsible for it.
Yes. Robin she's our lady of subscriptions. She's very, very important to this operation. So Robin will tell you, and you could even pin it to the top of the chat in Twitch. Yeah, Robin, the answer to that. But it'll be really great. My mom shows up sometimes. Who knows? I mean, you get the scoop. I value all the subscribers to Quilt Nerd, but those Tier 2 and Tier 3ers, there's perks. And if you subscribe, you don't have to watch ads at any level. You don't have to watch ads, and you get entered in the giveaways. And we got to do the giveaway on Tuesday, right? The June giveaway. I just realized I haven't mailed the May giveaway because I was gone. I'm so sorry. It's right over there. So, Niflinster, thank you so much for subscribing at Tier 2. You've been subscribed for 21 months. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for your support. Hey, everybody. Bip's here. Mademoiselle Larry in France. Good evening. Eva is here. D. Marie. Cranky McNopants. Bonnie Kane. She resubscribed at Tier 1. You've been subscribed for 17 months. I appreciate you, girl. It's good to see you, Bonnie. Podma's here, and Susanna is here. Slim's here. a nun maker. Oh man, Jill Alex is here. Sandy tries subscribed with Prime. You've been subscribed for 16 months. That's so great. It has been a long time, Sandy. I'm so glad that you're here. I'm going to give you a little... I just am. We have a soundboard. We're going to use it. And if anybody, the other Mary Kate, oh my God, hi. Oh my God. If you are watching on Facebook or YouTube, that's great. And I welcome you. That's so awesome. But the show is based in Twitch because I got to be me. I got to be different. And I really like Twitch for the stuff that it can do. And so... yeah, so if you want to subscribe and have all the things, which are the direct chat with the other people who are here, you can take part in the polls and get special stuff. Come over. Don't be afraid. Uncle Jeff Bezos owns Twitch, so you can even log in with your Amazon account, and it's totally fine. So anyway, Molly's here. Oh my God. Okay. Okay, Robin has answered the question. Okay, Bridgewater, yes. Tara, QB Tara. So, if I didn't say hi to you, I'm just hello to everybody. Thanks for coming. Okay, Stephanie Cake, how are you doing? What's new? What's happening?
I am doing very well. Actually had a great day.
Yeah?
I have already spent time with a few Quilt Nerds today.
Oh, yes, that's right. Say how.
Yes. I've been doing a little thing over on my channel where I'm reading the quilting classics, and some of the Quilt Nerds have caught wind of that and have been very sweet and kind and come to listen.
So great. Can you put your channel, Can you put a link in the chat?
I will, yeah. So had a great day, and also I have made some done progress.
Oh, that's great. We're going to take a cake break between the first segment and the second. You got to say what's up. This is very good. We're doing things here at Quilt Nerd. Big things. That's great. I'm excited to hear it. So let's get into it. Every show starts with a different quilt behind me. I have to sort of feel it out, I'm never sure until the show begins what it's going to be. But tonight's show, I got to tell you, it's great. It's great. I was inspired, divinely inspired. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to watch a video that I have been wanting to watch for, I don't know, honestly, a year probably. And the video is a man in Ireland, making fabric from flax. Yes. When I've read about, fabric being made from, well, obviously, sheep wool and so forth, being woven into, into all of that, people making thread, with a spinning wheel and then weaving it into cloth. Okay. But I was like, how does a flax plant become linen? Well, there's an amazing video on the internet with this wonderful man doing the whole thing, showing the whole thing. So we're going to watch it sped up a little bit. And I'm going to play some amazing Irish music over it because there's Irish music playing in the video. There's not a lot of talking. It's just watching him do it. And so I'm going to play music that I've actually paid for so that I don't get a copyright strike or something or a claim. Anyway, so we're going to watch that. Amazing. We'll take the cake break. And then we talked about it last time. I'm doing this research. I have a deadline. My deadline for this writing thing was actually today, but I let my person know tomorrow. I'm going to turn in this very, very big thing, okay? And it's about quilts and art, okay? And I said last time I was going to read to you something that was very important that happened in the 1990s. Tonight I'm going to read it to you. And I've made a video that is just a beautiful sort of smorgasbord of art quilts, okay? And I made it, and I'm just gonna play it while I read this thing, okay? And it may enrage you. Okay. It's very controversial. It was like the quilt controversy of its day. Believe me, nobody could stop talking about this thing. It was an event. In the annals of quilt history, it was a scandal par excellence, okay? So you will be perhaps upset by what I have to read to you. You will definitely be, your thoughts will be provoked, and it will inspire a lively discussion, so don't miss it. Okay, so what is this? What is this quilt? What is it? Well, I pulled it from the magazine that I'm going to read from tonight. This is a quilt that was featured in the 1992 issue of American Quilter, which was produced by AQS, American Quilter Society. It was published in that magazine in 1992 in the fall, and it's by Sylvia Einstein. And I picked it because, you know, it's unusual. We do something different every time. We had a really traditional applique quilt not long ago. You know, I like to switch it up because the quilt culture is so broad, right? And the people, our artists who make work in this way are so varied and talented. So this is very different. So Sylvia Einstein, hey, we did a hype train. That's so great. Calamity Cortez subscribed at tier 2. 6 months in advance. You've been subscribed for four months. That's amazing. That's amazing. Hold on. What am I going to play for you? I feel like I want to do something. Okay, here. Thank you for subscribing at tier 2 and for subscribing for, you know, a long time, because that's great. Makes me feel secure. Psychically and, monetarily. Anyway, so Sylvia Einstein made this quilt. Sylvia Einstein of Belmont, Massachusetts, was born and educated, let's look at the whole thing, born and educated in Switzerland and came to the United States in 1965. She has been quilting since 1975 and first exhibited in Quilts 76 at the Boston Center for the Arts. Her work has been shown in the U.S. and in Europe, and she has taught and lectured in New England, Switzerland, Germany, and France. As a quilt maker, Sylvia uses the traditional block as a starting place for exploration, and this quilt is called Acid Rain. It's 48 by 70 inches, and it was made in 1991. Now, this is interesting. So Sylvia says, quote, "The screaming yellows of the 60s Marimekko fabric," interesting, and the print of the trees gave me the image of acid rain falling on woods. The environment is slowly destroyed. Animals and plants die. Wow, that got really dark. Did you see the Marimekko? Yeah.
I did not. I didn't either. But as you were saying, and this quilt was made in, and I was like, 91 or 92.
Yeah, 1,000%. It really does. Yeah.
1991.
Really does. It does. And I mean, I think it's very successful. I think it is visually, like, I respond to this work. Like, I don't know. There's something about the way the light cuts through the dark. You know, the yellow and the pinks, the purples, they seem very balanced. There's kind of a swelling of light, right? You know, there's a shape to it. The colors kind of have their own shape within the black. And I mean, look, you know, I can't do this stuff, okay? I'm not an artist in this way, but I mean, the way she's placed this very large sort of pinstripe grid, I don't know how else to call it, you know, I love the way she did it. I think it's really great. I don't think anyone could have seen the Marimekko thing coming. Quilted Soul, hey! Molly, yes, you do. Do you? I think you do. You got to go to Missouri Star. You got to do it. Hey, Mark. Oh, my God. Padma, thank you so much for gifting a subscription to Sew on Positive Threads. Thank you so much. That is so awesome. When people gift a subscription, the kitten at the sewing machine appears. It's everyone's favorite part of the show, including mine. Thanks, Padma. That's awesome. And that means that next week, Sew on Positive Threads, you're going to be in the giveaway for something wonderful. It's going to be something wonderful. Oh, yeah. And the tier 2 and tier 3 folks, I'm going to give one of those pieces of patchwork away that I showed recently. Yeah, it's going to be great. So there's giveaways spatial for the tier 2 and tier 3 folks. Okay. Yeah, you got to go. Molly, you got to go. I thought about you today. I often think about you. So it's true. So anyway, so that's our quilt. Okay, great. I wanted to say hello. Actually, I want to do this one first. Susanna is here. So Susanna, the first person who came to me and was like, you seem really busy and there's a lot for you to do. Would you like any help? And I was like, yes, that would be great. Anytime any kind of social media post is posted about this show, it is because Susanna did it. I have an allergy to social media. It is an occupational hazard. It is a very, very bad way to be in 2023. But I've tried to fix it, and I can't. I just can't. So, Susanna, thank you so much. Susanna lives in Kuwait, but she's home she's in the United States for a while, and so she's here tonight because she's not in the future. She's not in the future. She's usually in the future at this time of night because she's in Kuwait. But she's here, and we are so grateful to you, Susanna. Thank you so much for everything you do. And just like the moral support. Susanna has a really great kind of dry sense of humor. She's sort of deadpan. It's great. It's great. And I appreciate that too. I mean, just, sort of on a human level. Also, so one of the things we're going to do tonight, I never do this. I never do it. Robin will be very pleased that I have done this, right? Because Robin helps me advocate for my needs. So I'm going to post, when you subscribe to the show, you get access to our Discord server. We call it the Disco. And that's like people hang out and communicate and post pictures of what they're working on and discuss the show and share links. And it's really fun. And subscribers get access to that. And I'm going to read from something tonight that I pay for, and I have a PDF of that, and it's a paper. It's over 10 years old. Anyway, the point is that I'm gonna put a PDF in the Discord, and because I think you're gonna want to read it. I mean, I think some people will really want to read the whole paper that discusses this thing I'm gonna read. And so, but yeah, like stuff like this costs money, and I gotta buy things for the research I'm doing, and like, oh my God, like office rent and all that stuff. So there's a lot of cost to making Quilt Nerd and to actually bringing you the information. And I'm a bad salesperson because I'm like, I don't know, if you want to pay for it, you probably will. If you don't, you won't, but maybe I should say, that, there's a Quilt Nerd Cash App, and if you want to kick $5, $10, whatever, into the kitty, it really helps. Like, it really, really does. So if that feels like something that you can do or want to do, that would be awesome. Okay, enough of that. Let's watch a video. Let's watch a video about someone making flax from scratch. Okay. Where is it? It is here. Okay, just a minute. So I've wanted to watch this for a very long time. And let me pull up my... Okay, hold on. Let me pull up this thing. Yep. Early quilts, early American quilts were made from lots of different things, right? Muslin, chintz, cotton, fabric, sure. But, if you didn't make your own fabric, like you had to buy it, and you couldn't buy fabric unless you had, some money. So a lot of people made their own fabric, and it was either going to be cotton fabric, or it was going to be, or it was going to be flax. It was linen, right, which is made from flax. So I was thinking to myself at one point, how does a plant become fabric? I mean, how does I think flax seeds were in my yogurt or something, and I was like, okay. So I had to know more. Okay. I mean, because cotton's a plant, like, okay, but I don't know, the flax thing was eluding me. So let me just, sorry, I've got to grab that. I've got a lot of videos queued up here.
I have to say
yes.
that it was not yesterday that I learned
that
linen is made from flax, but I do remember when I found that out.
Yeah.
I think it was when I was studying some like medieval Renaissance kind of stuff, and I was like, what now?
Yeah.
I don't know what I thought linen was, but I just, when I found out, and I know that there's a lot of work that goes into it, and so I'm very excited to see this video.
Yes.
But yeah, I was struck dumb by the fact that it too is a vegetable that is made into cloth, and that's just insane to me.
Yep. Yep, indeed. It is a vegetable made into cloth. That is very well put. Okay, here we have it. So this is from, let me pull this in here. Clearly, this man is a person that we want to spend time with, okay? So I'm going to make myself a little bit smaller here. And I'm going to, so as I mentioned, hang on. As I mentioned, I don't know, something's strange here. Let me move this. This needs to be here. Oh, they're totally weird. Why are you doing that? Oh, interesting. Okay, hang on one second, guys. So there's music that plays in this, great, in this video while he's doing the thing. There's very little speaking. I've turned on the closed captioning because his accent is so thick that he is difficult to understand if you're not familiar with that accent. And I will, let me just get the link too for Steph to share. Hang on one second so that you have it if you want it. Here you go, Steph. And this, by the way, there's 1.7 million views. It was posted 6 years ago. And it is How to Make Linen from Flax, a step-by-step demonstration of how linen is made using traditional Scotch-Irish cottage industry methods. So County Donegal is where we are. And this video was produced by the Historical Society in Monreagh Center. It's like Gaelic and like Japanese. Like, I have no idea. It's so embarrassing. I have no idea. French is actually really hard for me too. Anyway, so but we'll see the person, the organization that produced this here in the beginning of the video. So this is Colm Clark. I'm going to play this at 1.25 speed. When he starts, actually, I'll wait till he starts doing his thing and the music plays, okay? All right, here we go. You ready? You want to see how to make linen fabric from flaxseed from start to finish? Cool. Me too.
Hello, my name is Colm Clark. I've lived in the Carrigan area.
I put it at normal speed, okay? So it's normal speed, okay? Let me make sure those subtitles are on. Yeah. Okay, great.
Here in County Donegal for most of my life, and I worked at the Flax and Linen Industry up until 1955. Last year here at the Monreagh Heritage Centre here in County Donegal, we decided to film.
Hang on. Yeah, okay. I just want to make sure that yeah, there. Okay, great.
The process of producing linen. There are 6 steps in the process. Step 1 is we sow the flax and the seed in April. And step 2 is the flax plant grows to full height after 3 months. Well, step 3 is we pull it and put it in a dam to soak for 2 weeks. Step 4 is spread it and dry it on the grass field and takes about 10 days. Step 5, plant is lifted and bundled together and into stooks for 5 days.
Stooks. You got to bundle them into stooks, okay? There will be a quiz. Molly, what was step 2? I'm just kidding. Well, what was step 2? Cake, what was step 4? Come on. Okay, I got to keep myself on the screen but I'm going to make myself really tiny. Hi. Okay, let's do it.
And the 6th step of the process is by hand, ready for the mill to produce linen.
Okay, Monreagh Heritage Center. Okay. I don't know.
Now we're ready to sew the flax.
Hey, Lynn. I also love him, Molly. So I'm gonna play some different music. So just keep watching. They go through every stage and every month. Like, it is a year. And this video is just 13 minutes. And I'm gonna start kind of messing with some stuff here. But in the best way. Trust me. I practiced this, okay? I rehearsed. So early June, look at the growth. Look at the growth of the flax. Hey, Elrigs. He's doing the planting to the beat. Well, that would be great. Whoops, sorry. Okay. Okay, yeah. Great. Yeah. It's beautiful, the flax. So does this resemble anything you've seen or looked at or read about? Okay, hang on. Now he's gonna, oh yeah, it's just, yeah, there's no talking. It's just, it's grown. Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry, Colm, but this looks like weeds to me.
I know. Okay, here we go. I got an Irish music playlist. It's just how it is in the video, only I paid for this. So what I want to know is how much fabric do you get from all of this labor?
I guess we're gonna find out it by the end, but my guess is it's probably like some little 5-inch square.
Exactly. Which is why it's so important when people say that people, in the colonists made quilts. They didn't. This is why. Because if you think about what it took to have any fabric at all, like what's Roanoke? Like we're talking like early times, like early 1700s or something. There wasn't like a quilt shop. There wasn't anything of the kind. Like you had to if you wanted fabric, you had to make it. So the idea that you would make a length of cloth after all of this work and then cut it up into smaller pieces and sew it back together again with a seam allowance, which is waste, it didn't happen. It wouldn't happen. It's insane. Like, can you imagine doing all of this and then someone being like, I cut up all your fabric and I made a patchwork quilt? It's like, like murder. So this is why there weren't quilts in the colonies.
These are the stooks, yes?
These are the stooks. I eat the stooks. It does sound insane. Hey, T. Marie. Hey, Earth Girl. Hey, Hope. And Max. Murderer. Okay. Yeah. He looks like he's doing the same thing. But it's just more stooks. He's tying the flax with the flax. It's so cool. Ugh. It's so beautiful.
It's funny, there's a county very close to me that on their flag,
yeah,
it is like a little hay bundle that looks like that, what he just did with that flax.
Really? Interesting. Interesting. I feel like there are people in this audience, possibly including you, who would give this a shot. Seriously. Really. Yeah. Oh, okay.
I have to have somebody do the growing for me because I can't grow things. They,
Yep.
They don't survive.
Nope.
But yeah, I would give the rest of it a try.
Eric has a green thumb. He can make anything grow. It's beautiful. It's one of the things I love about him. I'll kill a plant by just bringing it into the house. Okay, let's see what Colm has to say about this next step. This is the flax we pulled the last day. Okay, here we go. Hold on, I gotta slow it down because. Okay. We're going to take it and soak it now. You can soak it in the Ulster Scots way or the English way. Wow, that's interesting.
The Scots way or English way, you were when it's going to soak it or steep it, but the English word is red. So, I'll put it in red and we'll. Put it in and the stones in the top, you give it down.
But the stones! The stones! You put the stones on top!
Keep it on here now for roughly up to 7 to 11 days, maybe more, according to what way. You stick it out then and you take it out then and you break it. And if it breaks clean,
you then take it out and break it, and if it breaks clean, the outer skin comes off. It is ready for taking out and spreading. Okay.
and the skin, the outer skin comes off it, that's ready for taking out and spreading. Then after that, then we'll take it out and you dry it in the green.
Okay. Back to my music. I mean, thoughts like in the chat. It's amazing. It's so cool. It's the coolest thing I've ever seen. All right. So many things to do technically. Okay, here we go. Sorry. Wow, look at that. So it's been dried. It's been dried and retted. Fascinating. Okay. He says this is a band made of rushes. And that's all he says. The gold color is so great. Gathering and stooking. When did he start? When did he,
I want to say he planted in April.
Yeah. It's September. Wow. You know what's funny? I mean, you can kind of see, like, that's some fibrous looking crown on that thing, you know? Like, it's like, oh, it's starting to look like fibrous. But I still wouldn't be like, let's turn this into cloth that we can wear on our body. Like, it's just not, it's not how I see the world. Thank goodness. We'd all be naked. How linen is made. At least how it was made in County Donegal. Oh, ooh. Wait, did you see that? Hold on. Did you see that tool?
Yeah, he's got like, it's like a little crook.
Yes.
Little...
It's a scythe, but it's like,
yeah,
some kind of scythe. I mean, I don't know if it's a scythe or not, but it looked like one, but it was so narrow and thin.
Yeah.
It looked like a needle. It kind of looked like a needle, which is cool. Watch, he'll use it. He's using it right now. Yeah, wow, perfect. Ah! It's great. Hey, Miscellany. Maybe at first, Miscellany says, they started out making mats and figured out that it could be split finer, and they eventually ended up with cloth. Oh, that's so smart. Very nice. Very good theory. I love that. Wow. 5 snooks? Snooks? Is that what he called them? Snooks? No. Stooks. You know, the snooks. Wow. Oh, what is that? Is that like other flax that he's tying? Oh, I just love that he's using the material to like use the material. Fabulous. Wow. Did my music end right when it needed to? Okay. Breaking down the fiber. Here we go. So we've prepared. Okay, yeah, that's perfect. Okay, hang on. Let's go back to Colm. Okay. And let me slow it down. My computer is very hot. That's not great. Okay. Normal speed. Here we go. Back to Colm. The process we will now
The
do
modern mold today is known as squitching.
is known as stitching. Stitching.
And this must have been done like this here up until the 1930s. This was known as squitching or beetling.
Wow. Wow. You can see it happening. It's starting to look like fiber, like hair. From that bush, from that seed to that bush. Flax becoming linen. Amazing.
So this is obviously what kept linen makers going, was their rage.
Yeah. Yes. Them and the butter churners who were like, "Ugh." Actually, I read that but the butter churners, like they had special songs that they would sing because they couldn't take like the terrible, like the tedium and the just like terrible labor they would sing about the butter. Yeah. Songs when you're doing things you don't want to do. It's a thing. Yeah.
This process that they have done is known as breaking the fibres, the inside fibre of your plant. It's the outside leaf that we need, that we're looking for. This is
It's the
known as
inside. Crimping.
this process here, now known as crimping, is for to break more of the fibre, the inside fibre, so to take it to the next process.
Sorry. Wow. That's like what he was doing, but like on steroids. That's. You know what I think about? I think about somebody who's like trying to do this, being like, you know what I need? I need a thing. I need something. It's like if I could have like two, things that would like smash it against another thing. Like I could do this a lot faster. You know what I mean? And somebody's like, I could do that. I think I know what you mean. Something like this. And they like sketch it out with like a wood stick, like on a rock. Sorry, I don't mean to be like, but like, they're like, what about this? And it's like, yeah. And like they build a prototype and it's like, okay, that's good. But like, maybe can you do it like this? And they're like, yeah. And then you get the crimper.
And then in the 80s we went, wouldn't that be awesome on hair too?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, yes. I love crimped hair, I do. It's so great.
This is the brushing part now, where it takes off the coarse, the inner part of the plant.
Wow. Hey, Sloso. Yes, they are. Farmers are brilliant problem solvers. Okay, right? What? Mother Nature, great question.
That's your pure linen.
Pure linen. Look at it.
That is truly amazing. And at this point, it's like that's how they process, or one of the ways they process wool too, is through those combs, the carding. And so I guess at this point, it's just straightening it out
and then weaving it. I mean, actually, I didn't think about.
I think it has to be spun.
Has to be spun.
Then,
Oh, God, I've been tempting you all with this thing I'm going to read. I have to do it tonight, but like next on Tuesday, I'll find a video. Don't read ahead. Don't read one or don't watch one, but you can, of course, if you want, but I'll find something good about spinning flax linen fiber into.
Yeah, I guess at this point, is it still called flax? Or is it
yeah, linen. Yeah, exactly. How to spin raw linen right into thread. Yeah, into thread. to then weave into a length of cloth. And, you know, maybe on Saturday, maybe this is like the week of, it's like Fiber Week on Quilt Nerd. It's Fiber Week. But like we should watch, I want to watch, you know, from shearing the sheep to carding the wool to ginning the, shearing the sheep to carding the wool to spinning it into yarn, but also, you know, picking the cotton, ginning the cotton, spinning the cotton, like all of this stuff. We should know. As quilt nerds, we should know these things, right? That's how you really know a quilt nerd. If they're like, well, you know, this quilt was made of linen and, you know, the process, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. Very annoying. The more annoying you are about what you know, the better you are as a quilt nerd. Okay. Anyway.
This process I have just done, it's done, and in the modern mill it was done by machinery, but what I have just done is what's done by hand, and what is done, finished now, this finished product here goes to the linen mill to be turned into thread.
Wow. Oh!
This was a process that was done in the 18th century, early 18th and 19th century.
It's
and
creepy.
This was a machine that was done before the big mills.
There it
the
is.
mills came into position. And this is an example of what was made in the 19th century. 19th century. Well, we hope you enjoyed the film. And we'd love to see you here in the Monreagh Heritage Centre in Carrigan and County Donegal, where I can give you a personal demonstration.
Oh, okay. I'm literally gonna cry. Like, oh my God. Like, calm. Like, thank you so much. Like, so much. That was wonderful. Thank you. Calm. Thank you to the Ulster Scots Irish Heritage and Education Center. Like, genuinely, the internet brings its gifts. Like, it is terrible, it is terrifying, it is full of terrible things, but there's stuff like this. It's amazing. I would never see this unless I like made, you know, a trip to go to Ireland and see this. Amazing. So if you liked that, the link, Steph shared the link in the chat. Go to that channel and hit the like button. When you like something on YouTube, that means like money for the channel, really. It's like when you just like it and you comment on it, like it's engagement, and you know there's pay for that. So like it's how the world is now. So like the video and all that. Yeah. Okay.
I really love all these little organizations that do stuff
Yes,
like that.
yes.
You know, because a lot of times they struggle really to get their programs out there. We have tons of little pocket parks and things like that here in Maryland, and they struggle to get people to see. And so when they do these programs online, it's so great.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's always nice to get back to them in some way to
Yes,
support them.
exactly. And you know, if you're part of like any kind of historical society or listen, a lot of the stuff, the videos that we watch on this show, I mean, if you're part of some kind of group, some history group, whatever, make those YouTube videos. I mean, I should do it too. Like, I'm working on one with Ivy. I got your email today. Once I'm done with this paper, I swear to God. But like, do a thing on like, I mean, the videos, like some of these videos, that video had 1.7 million views. I guarantee you that the money that historical society has made off that video on YouTube, they're good. Like, they're very good right now, financially speaking, because, I mean, that's 1.7 million views on YouTube. That's a lot of ad revenue. Anyway, I'm just saying, like, if you're part of a historical society, like, make a video about something in your collection. You could make a video about every single thing. Somebody out there is going to want to know about, you know, the bonnet or whatever that's in your collection from, like, 1695. I'm just saying. Okay, Steph, are you ready? We got a lot left to do. It's 9 o'clock.
Sure.
You ready for the cake break? Okay.
Sure.
All right. Awesome. All right. So here we go. I will be right back, and I want to hear what you have to say.
Fans off.
Oh yeah. I've got one on.
So
Okay.
hopefully you guys can hear me. I found out the hard way that apparently the noise cancellation aspect of these mics that we have, when you've got a fan in the background, that causes problems with sometimes with the gain on the microphone.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Good to know. Good to know.
Yeah. So yeah, I have gotten some Dunton work done. It's not, I can't say that I have found out anything that's like groundbreaking, but I can tell you guys what I did this week, which I mentioned to the folks that joined me this earlier today on my channel, that I was starting to feel kind of bad about myself because I was like, oh my gosh, all I've done is like, you know, sit here at my desk and do nothing. But it's not true. I have contacted this past week a bazillion people, not literally, but quite a few people, and I have reached out to and heard back from a descendant of Dr. Dutton.
Yes!
And I'm going to keep this person's identity quiet. I don't want to out them. But yes, they were very kind and responded very quickly to my Facebook message. I mean, you guys know, like, if you're on Facebook, if you're smart, you generally don't believe anybody who, reaches out to you and says, hey, I mean no harm. It's just like, don't do that. But this person, when I reached out to them, I said, if it's easier for you to get back to me, here's my email address. So I was very, very open. I didn't try to do anything scammy or weird. And I told them what I was doing, and they emailed me the next morning. So I sent them some questions. We'll see. They did say to me, I'm kind of the end of the line here, and everybody else is dead. So, it's tough for them to say, like, oh, I'll go ask so-and-so, because there's just not, a lot of people. But I do know Dr. Dutton I want to say he had 10 grandchildren and 10 great-grandchildren by the time he passed away. So this person that I've been in touch with, they are not the only one. So there are others. And so my hope is that I can impress the family enough, that I'm trying to do good with their ancestor and keep his memory alive for all of the wonderful things he did. And, just as Mary has done with some of Bertha Mextroth's, family and people that were, descendants or affiliated with her. So there's that. I also got in touch with the library and archivist at Shepherd Pratt, and Shepherd Pratt is here in Maryland, it's very well-known psychiatric hospital, but it was started in the late 1800s, and Dr. Dutton was not one of the first, but he was kind of early faculty there, or early staff member there. He was also faculty at Johns Hopkins, but I'm not as concerned about what he did at Johns Hopkins. It was mostly teaching. But what he did at Shepherd Pratt was really, really important to quilting. Like the quilting piece of it, patchwork, and all the things that he wanted to do occupational therapy-wise, that stuff was really important at Shepherd Pratt. So I reached out to the woman that is the library and archivist there, and she right away got back to me and was like, oh my God, yes. I will give you my knowledge, my resources, my archives, whatever. Let me go look and see what we have, and I'll get back to you. So I guess what I would say here is if you do find a topic that you're interested in, and you have to do the legwork to figure out where the stuff is, but if there's people at these institutions, this is their job, right? Like, and they get excited when they can share this stuff. So, don't be afraid to ask. Obviously, when you reach out to people, you want to be nice and, kind of tell them who you are and what you're up to. And, but yeah, it's just always like, it's so heartwarming when people are like, oh my gosh, you lived Dr. Dutton too? Yes, I want to talk to you about him. So there's that. I've done a little bit of legwork around correspondence with Dr. Dutton. And this has been a little bit challenging because I've heard things like he corresponded with this person or he corresponded with that person. And I have found evidence of some of that in his archives. He had a pretty big correspondence file. And so I have found, some of the things like Sue Roberts as an example. I know I talked extensively about Sue Roberts and the Center of Progress, the Sears exhibition in 1933 that went along with the Chicago World's Fair. And so I had found all the letters with Sue Roberts, and those were a treasure trove of information, so fascinating. But I also heard about all these other people he had connected with. Well, Marie Webster is one that he wrote with Marie, corresponded with Marie Webster. Her letters are there in the files. But all of these other people are not. So I did some legwork this week, and I kind of hitting some dead ends. And then there's a very funny thing happened, which I'm calling circular research, because a dear friend of the Quilt Nerd show had pointed me in a direction of a couple of researchers that have come before us, again, the shoulders that we stand on, Questa Benberry and Joyce Gross, they're both deceased, but they left their very, very comprehensive research collections to different universities. Joyce Gross's, her stuff is in Austin at the Dolph Briscoe Center. And Questa Benberry's research papers are all at Michigan State. They have a huge African American, I know it's like culture, folklore, and all that stuff. Marie Webster's archives, I think those are all at the Quilters Hall of Fame, because the Quilters Hall of Fame is actually in Marie Webster's house. That's it. Google the Quilters Hall of Fame when you guys get a chance, and I think they have a whole thing about like acquiring that property, and it's in, I think, Marion, Indiana.
Yeah.
Mary, am I correct that
Yep.
Marie Webster's files, those are all at the Quilters Hall of Fame?
Correct. Yep.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed.
So, but my circular research was, so I'm told, look at Questa Benberry stuff, look at Joyce Gross's stuff. Luckily, Questa Benberry's stuff is at Michigan State.
Oh, yeah.
The librarian archivist that is in charge of this special collection where that stuff resides, she's a member of AQSG. So she was like, girl, I got you. And then I got a little bit of a runaround with the student, I guess, volunteers and stuff, because they just didn't know. They weren't sure. And they're actually, I think I've mentioned this before, Questa Benberry. Mary, keep this in mind.
Yeah.
Future researchers, commit this to memory. Questa Benberry's collection, for some reason, has been filed in Gladys Fry's
What?
stuff.
Really?
Yeah. And
That's weird.
I'm not sure why. It doesn't necessarily make sense, but I guess they're looking at it as this big, like, African American studies, quilts and folklore and all that stuff. So, or maybe it's a mistake.
All I'll say is that the women who run that whole program are brilliant, and like Marsha McDowell, like goddess. So I'm sure there's a reason, but it's odd. It seems strange, but I don't know. In their capable hands, I'm sure there's a reason.
Yeah, the person there though, she was like, "I got you, girl. I'm a member of AQSG. I know what you're up to." So like, bless you.
It's like the mafia.
If you are a member of AQSG and you would like to embark on some research, you better be dropping AQSG all the time when you talk to people, because it gives you this air of credibility.
It's true. And I haven't mentioned it all month. I've been terrible about it. If you're not a member of AQSG and you want to join and you've never joined before, Quilt Nerd $15 off your membership. AQSG, American Quilt Study Group, amazing. And there's not many coupon codes, but we have one, and I haven't talked about it.
Yeah, I think, real quick though about that, I think it's just for new members.
It is. It's just,
yes,
exactly. It's just for new, and it's just for June. I don't know. I mean, last time we did this, it was like, I was like the star pupil in AQSG, because it was like, oh my God, like, because so many of you use the thing, but I haven't been doing it as much. I haven't been promoting it as much.
I keep forgetting, but I got a couple people to use it.
Good. Well,
so
Kate
the last thing I
is
would
great.
say
Yes.
about my circular
Yes.
research
Yes.
was I got Questa Benberry stuff, and
Hey,
a
that's
ton
great.
of stuff. I look at it all. There's an index in there of Dr. Dutton's letters, and it's an index of Joyce Gross's stuff.
Wow.
And so I was like, well, crap. As it turns out, Joyce Gross's stuff is the stuff I've already seen. So luckily, the Dolph Briscoe Center, there was a little bit of a roadblock there. They're very overtaxed.
Yes. I found that.
And
Yeah.
Mary, you've experienced that too with them. So I was able to kind of sidestep that issue just to find out. I've researched exactly what my foremothers researched.
Yeah. It's pretty cool.
But that's what you have to do. You have to make those steps on your own.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah, that's pretty awesome. Yeah, I don't know. I think I like being in my 40s. I mean, I just like stuff like this I care about a lot, and like it feels good, It's like, yeah, I want to like be a part of something that's bigger than me, Yeah, and that's kind of what this, right? Kind of feels like that, right? Huh. Okay. Thank you. Hey, babe. Hold on. Where's my thing? Oh. Wait a minute. Wait, what was that? Okay, all right. Hey, by the way, the Quilt Folk Foundry. While I've been doing this big writing project that is impossible, but I shall prevail, the Quilt Folk Foundry, we did our second launch, our second batch of quilts. And you know what? If you go to quiltfolk.com/foundry, 9 of those quilts have sold. They sold right away in one day. I haven't even talked about it.
When I looked yesterday, it was like 5 of them.
Yeah, there's like only a couple left, and one of the ones that's left is one of my favorite quilts of all time. But the finishing school workshop, which will, I believe that we now have an air date, July 11th or 12th. It's one of those two. It'll go live, and so it's on demand. So you can, we work on, my mom and I work on Tig and Valerie, the 2 quilts that are left. We work on those on the show, so you'll see the before and after. You'll see the story of them, and I think that will push anyone over the line who's not purchased the quilt yet. But anyway, it's really exciting. I work so hard on my project. It's a lot of work. And so far, it's people like the stuff. So that's great. Thank you. Okay, right, Kay? It's so exciting. July 10th. Thank you, Padma. Okay, so let's do this. We got a lot to do. Thank you, Steph, and thank you, everybody. We've got something important to do here. So this is the cover of American Quilter magazine. Now, American Quilter magazine is now AQS, right, Stephanie? That's right, AQS, American Quilt, right? Because it's produced by AQS, the American Quilter Society. So AQS made this magazine. And by the way, a lot of you, several of you offered or sent Quilters Newsletter magazines from back in the day, and we used to do a Quilters Newsletter Friday. It was too much. It was too much for me to do, but those Quilters Newsletter magazines that I have dating back to the beginning of Quilters Newsletter are a invaluable resource. I use it all the time. I got to tell you, the more I look at the American Quilter magazine, the more I realize it would be great if anybody has these magazines and you don't want them anymore. This era, it'd be great if you want to get rid of them, because I have stuff I got to get rid of, but I'm looking for these, especially from the early 90s. Okay, like anytime 1990 through like 1995, like if you have American Quilters and you're like, I'm not actually going to use these for anything, like maybe Quilt Nerd will use them and I'll enjoy them on the show instead of just having them be in a pot, in a stack in my garage. Like, let me know, because there's a lot to be seen here. So in 1992, in the fall of 1992, American Quilter published this article, Getting Our Bearings, Quilt Art at Century's End. And this was, let me get a little bit smaller here. It says the following article is the text of the keynote address delivered by Michael James at the AQS Quilt Show and Contest Awards Banquet on May 1st, 1992. So like Paducah, right? Paducah. It is presented here in slightly revised form. Slightly revised. Now, what I did, so I'm going to read this to you because this piece of text, it's not short, but it's not terribly long. It's what you're looking at, and one more page. Okay, so because I like to know, when someone's like, can I read something to you? It's like, well, let's just get the parameters of what we're talking about, before. So it's this and one more page, okay? So I'm going to read it to you. So settle in. Also, before we do that, I just want to say that this is a very, very deep, almost nihilistic Bernina ad from 1992. I know they still use this, like nothing sews like a Bernina, nothing, but like in the void of the black, it's like nothing sews like a Bernina, nothing. And here's Carol Fowler looking, I don't know, kind of alarmed. But that's intense, right? Nothing sews like a Bernina, nothing. Right? It's a lot. Okay.
It's like a vodka ad.
Yeah.
It's like the kind of thing that what is it? I can't think the one that's really famous. Absolute.
Yes, exactly. Mary Kate, it is so great to see you. Angelina, hi. Like I like my machines intense, says Jill. Exactly. Okay, so what I've done here, as I mentioned, is I made a video, and it is, I mean, it's just very simple. I took a lot of art quilts, because that's what this article is about. I took a lot of art quilts, and I put them in a montage, and I'm going to play it. Oh, Riggs! Nice, that's great. Here we go. I mean, there's no sound to it. I'm just going to read this, but this is a visual. You know, it's nice to have that. So here we go. Oop, okay. Michael James, 1992. He delivered this as a speech, and then AQS printed it in their magazine the same year. Okay. I'm gonna try to just read it neutrally. Okay. And you can discuss in the chat your feelings. Okay, here we go. Quote, 1992 finds us comfortably humming along in the third decade of this most energetic of quilt revivals. Relatively secure, I forgot I did like a credits thing. Just don't worry about it. It's dumb. Okay, relatively secure in the belief that quilt making has arrived as an art form, and that its present vitality is not likely to diminish anytime soon. If the growth of shows such as the annual AQS extravaganza at Paducah is any indication, popular interest and enthusiasm for quilts is at an all-time high. The burgeoning market for new gadgets and goods, for fabrics and designer fabrics, no less, that's in scare quotes, designer name fabrics, okay, and books for new techniques and specialized services reflects a homegrown industry that recently seems, despite our national economic recession, as if it's been taking steroids. In the Museum of the American Quilter Society, the quilt world finally has a facility dedicated to quilts and quilt makers, of which it can be proud. Galleries, albeit only a handful, regularly show quilts. Regularly show quilts, presenting them in a flattering and sophisticated light. Collectors, both private and corporate, have legitimized both historical and non-traditional quilts in terms of the marketplace, and along with historians and researchers, they are helping to assure that future generations will know and enjoy the rich heritage that has been created by the hands and minds and hearts and spirits of quilt makers in the 19th and 20th centuries. When I first began to look seriously, by the way, sorry, pause, I didn't mention, some of you may not know who Michael James is. Michael James, actually, they might say, hang on one second. Yeah, sorry. This is what AQS says. Michael James lives and works in Somerset Village, Massachusetts. He is the author of the Quilt Maker's Handbook and the Second Quilt Maker's Handbook, the recipient of 2 visual artist fellowships from the National Endowment for the Arts. He lectures, teaches, and exhibits widely. In May of 1992, he was awarded an honorary Doctor of Fine Arts degree from the University of Massachusetts at Dartmouth, his alma mater. Okay, Michael James is very famous. Like he was one of the forerunners in the art quilt movement, and this is one of his quilts here, right, to start the video. It's Aurora, I believe is the name of it. It's a seminal work, right, in the early 1980s art quilt movement. Okay, so this is who's speaking. I should have mentioned it. I apologize. Okay, let's continue. When I first began to look seriously at quilts in the early 1970s, quilt shows were almost exclusively small-scale efforts by local church groups or women's clubs that displayed pieces from their members' families or from the frames of their weekly quilting bee. By today's standards, these shows could be described as modest and unassuming. But to freshly excited eyes and a passionately interested spirit such as my own, even the humblest of quilts I encountered at these presentations embodied a wealth of visual sensation and a loving personal document that spoke volumes, to me at least, about the quilt maker's life and time. I remember the stark graphic clarity of any number of the blue and white quilts. They inspired me by their bold communicative quality. I remember the muted, dusty tone of a late 18th century medallion. I responded to the intricacy of its quilting and the texture and harmony of its fabrics and colors. I remember the first flower garden hexagon quilt I saw. It seemed overwhelming in the sheer number of its small units and in what to me at the time seemed like an incredible will and perseverance on the part of its maker. For some reason at that time I didn't seem to notice or didn't seem to mind weak color usage or pedestrian technique or overly sentimental motifs or images. The quilt spoke to me of a simpler time when individuals were more clearly in tune with the rhythms of the land, when village and family life represented the principal core of any individual's existence, and when technology hadn't yet transformed our concepts of time and space. I know that each year, many new quilt enthusiasts come on board, and I know they walk through today's quilt shows wearing the same rose-colored glasses that I once wore. Sometimes I wish that I could experience a show of the scale of AQS annual and others like it with the same openness and naivete and wonder that I felt 20 years ago. On second thought, that probably wouldn't be a good idea. I'm not sure my system could withstand the sheer volume of it all. After swimming in these waters for the last 20 years, I find now that I've seen too much, made too many comparisons, and perhaps made too many quilts to be able to guess at how a novice feels when strolling through acres of quilts of every imaginable description. I've become jaded to some degree, much more selective and critical of what I see than I once was, much more insistent on a high standard of excellence than I was years ago. That's to be expected after a long time involvement in any field, and it should be encouraged. Any amateur, in the French sense, as one who cultivates an interest in or love of some art or science, any connoisseur should be expected to have a discriminating eye and sensibility, to know a field or discipline thoroughly, and to be able to distinguish between the ordinary or mundane and the exceptional. In a recent article in American Quilter magazine entitled "The Future of Quilts as Art," Gail Pritchard writes, quote, "We must continue to expand upon the great tradition we all share, so that the art of quilt making is not once again relegated to craftspeople, reproducing centuries-old techniques, viewed as quaint by an uneducated public. To do this, we all share a responsibility for educating the public by showing our work," unquote. Presumably here, Gail Pritchard is writing about the art quilt, a species that certainly didn't exist 20 years ago, but now seems ubiquitous. I suspect that today even the smallest county fair displays aren't without their innovative categories and their token art quilts. Gail Pritchard's commentary got me to wondering exactly what will the uneducated public, her term, learn from the art quilt. Recently, I had the opportunity to look closely at a juried show of art quilts, and in reflecting on what I saw, here's what I came up with. If it's at all perceptive, that uneducated public will notice that there's a depressing preponderance nowadays of quilts from the every trick in the book school. Quilts in which the maker pulled out all the stops in her or his effort to have the work noticed, to get into the final cut, to win a prize or ribbon. I've seen quilts lately that embody in a single work such an unrestrained use of trendy techniques, from painting and embroidery and beading to pleating, tie-dyeing, and photo transferring, to name just a few, glitzy fabrics and politically correct messages, that the viewer is underwhelmed by the sheer excess of it all. That uneducated public will learn that in their efforts to make art, some quilt artists are vainly trying to overcome or deny the form of the quilt by attempting to make quote-unquote soft paintings. They're employing painting techniques as well as appropriating conventional painting themes such as landscapes and portraits and figures, but are failing to respond thoughtfully to the constructivist form of the quilt and are thus failing to integrate the intrinsic nature of the quilt with their particular vision. When I refer here to constructivism, I'm thinking not specifically about the modern art movement that bears the name, but rather about an attitude toward material and process in which the two are mutually supportive and in which art and object are one. At this point, I should explain that my idea of what a quilt can be is, in fact, quite open and flexible. While I see the textile sandwich as the classic form of the quilt, that is, top batting and backing, these layers quilted through, I'm not uncomfortable with the art quilt umbrella reaching out over a larger area. It can cover textile constructions that don't have batting, or that aren't in fact quilted, or that employ unconventional techniques and materials. This type of work has to have its own integrity, however, and that integrity must arise, at least in part, from the work's physical, technical, emotional, and or aesthetic link to historical quilt models and to quilt history and sociology. For example, work by artists such as Jan Myers Newbury, Pam Studstill, Terry Mangett, Reese Nagin, and Therese May, to name a few, manages in skillful and sensitive ways to integrate aspects of both pictorial and patchwork forms. These makers draw as much from quilt history and design and process as they do from the mainstreams of 20th century visual art. What I think fails to ring true are the watercolor-like renderings of pastoral forest glades, the artfully posed nudes sketched in metallic thread, still more romantic sunsets framed by log cabin borders, or those quilts cloned from reproductions in the most recent Quilt National catalog or Fiber Arts magazine. That uneducated public that Gail Pritchard referred to in her article, when looking at and thinking about what so often is passed off as an art quilt, will discover that color is more often out of control rather than exuberant, empty rather than symbolic or metaphoric. It's often handled with little understanding of its subtleties and with too evident reliance on obvious spectral harmonies and undistinguished value gradations. The recent wide availability of hand-dyed color runs is quickly having a homogenizing effect on this latter device, serving to make many quilts look more, rather than less, like something we've already seen. That public will find that good visual design, the understanding of surface patterning, and the manipulation of such formal elements as line and shape and negative space, their orchestration with and through color and spatial illusion, and their support of meaning or vision or message seem to elude many makers who can't seem to see the forest for the trees. Unable to look critically at their work for want of training, or lack of rigor in the case of those who do have art training, they abandon their surfaces to wild free-for-alls that are supposed to represent expression but fail to either say anything or be anything. Now you're probably wondering, just what show of art quilts did he see that got this response out of him? Well, I'm not going to tell you that, but I will say that my critique is aimed less at a particular show than at a general condition in the quilt world that I fear threatens its development as a creative form. In their zeal to elevate quilts to the status of art and to validate their efforts and their concepts of themselves as artists, many makers are skipping first, second, and third bases and heading straight for home. Prematurely, in the final stretch, they are tripping over their lack of familiarity with the history of crafts, of which their medium is but one area, and the larger history of art, encompassing every aspect of the development of our visual vocabulary, from the cave painters of prehistoric times to the present. While there's surely a lot for quilt artists to learn from the history of quilt making and other needlework, it's important to remember that no art form exists in a vacuum, and that no artist can grow who fails to search beyond her or his medium. No matter the medium, craftsmanship is certainly an important issue. In this department, I think the quilt world is in good shape. Inventive makers have improvised on time-tested processes and introduced quicker, time-saving ways to put fabric together or to embellish the quilt surface. It's the rare quilt nowadays that gets into any show with inept or shoddy construction. Even the best craftsmanship, however, can't compensate for poor design and weak concept. As ends in themselves, tiny stitches, perfect seams, matching points, and so on lead nowhere. Good. Sorry, I don't know. I'm not making a commentary. Good craftsmanship serves a supporting function. By its very nature, it has to stand in the shadow of good design and vision. It is the skeleton, the understructure over which ideas take form. It is the skeleton, the understructure over which ideas take form, and from which expression takes wing. Without these, no quilt can transcend the purely functional. I recently had the good fortune to see a small exhibition of Mennonite quilts at the People's Place Quilt Museum in Intercourse, Pennsylvania. Always makes me laugh, sorry. I know I'm a child. It left a big impression. Back to Michael James. And we're on the last page of this now. During my early involvement with quilt making, it was to Amish and Mennonite quilts that I was particularly drawn, most especially by their quote-unquote outsider approach to color. Although the difference between the workshop experience and a 4-year art school program, although the difference between the workshop experience and a 4-year art school program is significant, dedicated and motivated quilt makers can get substantial mileage out of 2 or 3 or 4-day workshops. Hang on. Oh shit, sorry. No, sorry. I was wrong. We're not at the last page just yet. Okay. So he's talking about the Amish quilts. This is very important, actually. Okay. At the Amish show, I was reminded of the specialness of those intense and evocative color palettes when I stood in front of a brilliant Rose of Sharon quilt whose design and dense royal blue background nearly pushed its bright yellow-orange flowers off its surface. Likewise, the electrifying visual interaction of a rich cadmium red fabric with an equally powerful green in a robbing Peter to pay Paul pattern just about knocked my socks off. There was nothing of the tasteful or the conventional here, and there was no self-consciousness. These were quilt makers reveling in the same types of color interplay that trained artists would later exploit in movements such as color synchronism and color field painting. The women who made those quilts were probably not oblivious, but were certainly indifferent to the conventions that governed the designing of quilts in their day. Would that we were able to say the same thing about many self-styled quilt artists. Quilt making has been a rather feel-good art form. That is, we in the quilt world have been inclined to see only the upside of what we do. Women's work was undervalued for so long that we don't have the heart to be critical of a field whose substance is drawn from the intellectual, emotional, and physical labor of women. Yet we claim that it's an art and demand for it the same attention and respectability that is directed toward the fine arts and toward other fine craft areas. That respect and attention is surely deserved in some cases, but the truth is that much of what's being made today and passed off as quilt art is anything but. As Joseph Campbell said, somebody who just gets up to splash around is not necessarily an artist. Art isn't mimicry. Art isn't trying to figure out what's current or the thing to do. Art isn't about style or developing a style. Art is about self-knowledge and exploration. It's about knowing what the limits are and about pushing beyond them. It's about maturity and honesty. It's about doubt and despair and working through them. It's about discovery and new directions and looking ahead, not sideways or over one's shoulder, but ahead. I've always felt that quilt making was one of the most democratic of the applied arts. That is, in its home-based sources, its material and technical simplicity, in its rich heritage of pattern, in its capacity to comfort and inform, it presents an accessibility that few other art forms offer. I think it's important that we maintain that accessibility, but I think as well that at least for those who hope to make art with quilts, the full measure of what they do must be calculated against the same standards applied to any of the visual and tactile arts. There's certainly, Cake, I see you. There's no right or wrong, well, there's no, I'm delivering it as neutrally as I can. I'm delivering it in the spirit of what maybe he would deliver it in. Just energetic and like I'm giving a speech, right? Okay. There is certainly a case to be made. You're doing a very good job. There's certainly a case to be made for a new way. Okay. There's certainly a case to be made for a new way of criticizing craft that isn't based on Western painting models, and this is especially appropriate when dealing with a needle art form such as quilting. But just because it's a quilt doesn't necessarily mean it's art. Many people believe that an individual has to be gifted or talented to be an artist. They feel that an artist is born, not made. I think this provides some undermotivated people with a convenient rationale to excuse themselves from attempting to do something artistic. I've been teaching long enough to know that while art cannot be taught, the conditions that give rise to competent artistry can be nurtured and refined. I believe that one... Hold on. Okay. I believe that one can be trained to see creatively, and that one can learn to draw and to compose and to design, and that learned material can be applied to one's personal quest for expression and for self-realization. Talent, where it exists, is certainly helpful, but talent is a function, at least to some degree, of perseverance and hard work and passion. I also believe, and I believe this deeply, that without some amount, okay, this is very important. If there's anything that you hear, so this is Mary now speaking, if there's anything that you hear, it's very important that you hear this. I also believe, and I believe this deeply, that without some amount of formal training, most would-be artists or designers face very limited prospects for development. Like the initiate to any spoken language, they may well be able to say bonjour, comme está, konnichiwa, or dankeschön, but carrying on a conversation is another matter altogether. Now, the vast majority of people making quilts today don't really care whether or not they're making art or whether or not what they do is called art. They're getting immense pleasure from the work of their hands and a sense of satisfaction knowing that others like them can enjoy what they've made. This has always been the basic rationale of quilt making for most people, and it will probably always be this way. This is fine and needs to be encouraged. The growth of the art of the quilt, however, rests in a spirit of adventure and experiment that most hobbyists are unlikely to pursue. It falls on individuals with subversive natures, with idiosyncratic or even radical viewpoints, and approaches to a medium, to push it to limits beyond the known and the familiar. It requires a disdain for that which is easy, facile, or nice. It requires a character that is perceptive. It requires a character that is perceptive, curious, sensitive, ambitious, and informed. I'd like to hope that 20 years from now, the threaded needle as a medium in its own right will be an accepted discipline in the curricula of textile programs in most art schools in this country, because I believe it's from them that the best of future contemporary quilt artists will come. As it stands today, textile study in academia centers on weaving and fabric design and on what's come to be called surface design. It's primarily industry-oriented. If they're present at all, the needle arts, from embroidery to patchwork to quilting, at best occupy only a peripheral position with little emphasis placed on either their history or their practice. As it stands, the training of the quilt artist today is taking place primarily in the independent workshop setting, at conferences such as the AQS show, Quilting by the Lake, to name a few, and at craft schools, at community centers, in guild programs, and in private challenge groups. Some quilt makers are seeking the training in color, design, and technique they realize they'll need if they're going to succeed at expressing their own unique point of view. Okay, we're in the home stretch. You're doing a good job. It's a lot. It's a lot. Yeah. Although the difference between the workshop experience and a 4-year art school program is significant, dedicated and motivated quilters can get substantial mileage out of 2 or 3 or 4 day workshops with serious and qualified instructors. But being selective in choosing where and with whom to study they can, over time, build a suitable art and design foundation that will equip them with the basics on which they can begin to mold their own artistic points of view. Okay. I'm actually gonna skim here. Okay, here. You may be wondering what all of this has to do with what you see each year in large quilt displays, such as the AQS show. I believe that today, the enormous diversity of design and expression represented in the hundreds of quilts shown in venues such as that at Paducah, both the good quilts and the not-so-good quilts, owes as much to the risk-taking and experimenting that has gone on in the studios of trained artists as it does to the large body of traditional work that came before. Today, there's a broader acceptance of the non-traditional alternative in quilt design, even among those who still prefer time-honored approaches to the craft. I think that's because even the most dyed-in-the-wool traditionalist has to admit that innovative work has provided a much-needed stimulus to the quilt world as a whole, and that without that input of new ideas, methods, and images, the art of quilt making would still be plodding along at the proverbial snail's pace. I've often wondered where quilt making would be today if trained artists had taken up the needle and thread in 1940 or 1950 rather than in the 1970s. Before then, quilt making had run on automatic pilot, going nowhere artistically for 40 or 50 years. Since then, it has exploded in a sort of multifaceted renaissance that seems to guarantee its lively continuation well into the 21st century. I'm proud to be able to take some measure of credit for stimulating the metamorphosis that quilt making has gone through in the last 20 years. And I share that credit with other people who have worked to push quilt making in new directions. But I feel that if we are truly to realize a new golden age of quilt art, we must be appropriately trained as artists and craftspersons, and we must be critical and discriminating, both of our own work and of what we see around us. We must set standards for ourselves and for the art that we make, and those standards need to be at the highest. The challenge of reaching toward these standards will keep us struggling and growing, both individually and collectively. Finally, we must be conscious of the implications of our involvement with this medium, but unself-conscious in our employment of its processes and materials. Unless we are, we will never enjoy the kind of broader acceptance and credibility that many in the quilt world seem to so desperately want. Okay. So, of course, slow so. Thank you, honey. I mean, okay. I'll say this, and then I'll toss it to y'all. There are things in there that resonate. Definitely. If I were to, I mean, it would be dishonest for me to say that there weren't. But there are also, overall, in general, taking the broad view, what this person who is a trained artist, at Dartmouth, he's, and I don't even care that he's the whiteness of him. I don't know. But he is a dude. Stop for a minute, yes.
Dartmouth is known for its amazing art school.
Ooh, burn!
I mean, Harvard's a great school too, but I am not buying tickets to their football games.
Ooh, burn! Steph!
Michael James.
Throwing that shade, I'm into it. But I mean, yeah, right. But exactly. But he's this East Coast educated guy, and whatever. I know a lot of awesome men who have East Coast educated. I don't make broad generalizations about anyone, about dudes, about white dudes, about black dudes, about, I just please, judge the individual, okay? Most individuals are very judgmental and they can be judged. Okay. But it is kind of crazy that okay, so what happened? Okay, just one second now. I forgot, this is very important. So this paper that I shared with Stephanie, this PDF of this paper that can you post it in the Discord for the people? Okay. So I just want to give you a little bit of the aftermath. So what I just read to you, this caused a huge controversy. I mean, people who heard this speech, because he gave it at the AQS show in 92. One of the things that Karen E. Smith writes about is that people who were clapping, she quotes someone who says, you know, who was there when he gave the speech, and they said people who clapped for him when he got up to speak were sitting on their hands by the end of the speech. It was, people responded to the printing of this in 1992 in American Quilter magazine. There were letters for like over a year. Like it was the comments section of the day, you know, like it was like the Facebook comments section of that time. Let's see. James, okay. So she goes over the thing. Hang on. So then, okay. Okay. Yeah, Paul Pilgrim, quilt collector, says, quote, "I was fortunate enough to be sitting at a table where people were taking notes or saying this is all hogwash. Some of my table mates who clapped loudly when Michael James was introduced sat on their hands when his speech was over," unquote. When the shock wore off a bit after